Our next caller is drowning in debt and looking for a lifeline. Is that your impression of drowning? Our next caller is drowning in debt and looking for a lifeline. We're about to talk to Maria, who has some credit card debt, about $6,000 of it, and you think you're about to get sued. Maria, what's going on?
Hi. I went to my mailbox like 2 weeks ago and I started receiving letters from advertisings from lawyers saying, "You've been sued, you have a lawsuit." And I thought it was a scam at first. And then I looked into the Dallas court records and nope, I am actually, in fact, on February 28th of this year was sentenced a lawsuit by Capital One Bank um, for a credit card that was closed out last year. I want to say in July of last year for $6,037.
Okay.
And but here's the thing, I had no idea. Like I said, it was 2 weeks ago that I started getting these advertisements. So the lawsuit was filed in February. It is now May, and I have not been served any papers. I haven't been contacted by anybody. No emails. This just seemed very out of the blue. And I had never even heard of a bank actually suing you for being broke, basically.
Okay.
Of course, I do have some other debts,
I'll stop
but
you right
that's,
there.
yeah.
I feel like we're about to go full Dave Ramsey. We just became the Dave Ramsey show.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the other debts. Sorry. This is a serious situation and we're going to take it seriously, but I also want you to know tons of people go through this. So let's get the whole picture. What are the debts that you're going through?
Okay. Then I have a toll tag debt of about $716. And then I have my car loan, which is $25,000.
Are you behind on that?
I have now gotten up to date with that with a payment plan. So that's good.
Okay.
I have a couple more creditors, another credit card of $990. And when I moved out of an old apartment a couple years ago, they wanted to charge me a fee on top of my deposit. So there, some credit people are after me for $355.
Has
Or
it
I
gone
guess
to has that gone to collections yet, or is it still the original?
yes. No, it has gone to collections.
Okay.
And I've got my student loan debts at $12,500. And then the last one is the IRS. And for the IRS, I have 2 years right now that I owe money. For 2021 at $3,475. And then for last year, 2023 at $4,064.
4,064. Okay.
Got a lot of things going on
A
here.
lot of things going on.
Unfortunate. That's a pretty common thing these days. A lot of Americans are facing the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no one in Texas gives a fuck about the toll tag. That's what I'm learning from these callers. You're the third caller in the first 8 who's had toll tag issues, and we even went through a story about how I've had toll tag issues. So we all just kind of ignore it. I think it's owned by the Chinese.
We do.
I've heard that too. I heard that too.
Yeah. Sorry, Bill.
Oh, it's okay. I only half own it. That's fine. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so let's go order of emergency here. So it seems like the most urgent situation is this lawsuit.
Hmm.
So you're saying that you have had a suit filed against you, but you've never had any communication or notice of this. Let's talk about that first, I think.
Do you know what court
Yeah.
it's in?
I'm trying to look it up right now. I just lost the website. Dallas County.
Okay.
Dallas
Can we
County.
look this up? We can look this up, right?
I don't have her name.
I was gonna say I
She
can
could
give
say
you the case number if you need it.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's-
What's your case?
Let's look it
number?
up by case number.
So I think one of the things we can talk about right now while we're looking that up is one of the critical things that has to happen, and you've used this word properly already, is you have to actually get served. Now,
Mm.
what that usually means is some jackass is going to run by and throw the papers at you or find you at work or church or, wherever you happen to be. But there's also a thing called constructive service or notice service, which is where if they can't find you for long enough, the person who's trying to sue you can just put it in the newspaper, which, I mean, really doesn't make any sense because, one, no one reads newspapers anymore.
It made sense back when the newspaper was
Yeah.
how people got their news, but that law is archaic.
Correct.
So one thing you might want to look into is whether or not I'm interrupting Bill.
No,
but
go
I'm
ahead,
stealing
go
his.
ahead.
I'm alley-ooping his answer and
I
giving
love
him
it.
time to look it up. We might want to evaluate whether or not you've been properly served or if constructive notice or adequate notice has been given. For these larger banks, sometimes they make errors in
They
your
do.
favor.
They do.
Favor. Kind of like the game Monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
Except instead of $200, we might be collecting $6,034. Is that right? Is that what it was?
Yep.
Something like that.
Something like that.
So one of the other things I think we're going to want to talk about related to this is what ultimately happens, because you're going to have to get it resolved. And there's a lot of different things that might be a potential defense here. So you've probably heard of statute of limitations.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like it applies because you said that these debts are from last year or the year before.
Yeah, my account was closed in July of last year. At least that's what it says in my Credit Karma account.
Okay.
I think there's a broader issue for the listeners at home too, right? Like, because I think the first thing we're looking at is you have these smaller debts. And the good news is this is smaller. Like I see people all the time that have $200,000 in student loans and then another $50,000 in credit cards and $80,000. Like this is a manageable amount of debt. What's your income at right now, if you don't mind me asking?
And therein lies the issue, is that I was just recently laid off. So I currently just had an interview today, and I've got 2 interviews scheduled for next week. So I think that that's where my panic is coming from.
Sure.
Is I don't have reliable income coming in currently.
What
I just have
profession?
my little, I'm in marketing,
Okay.
social media marketing.
And then like ballparking it, what range have you made over the last couple of years?
Oh Lord. Last year, depressingly, I made about less than 30K last year, and then the year before that, I think I made 40K.
Okay.
So I am looking to further expand that.
How old are you?
36.
Okay.
Typical millennial problems.
It's understandable. I mean, there's a lot of folks who are trying to do different things, and it creeps up on you to get all of these different ones happening. So, we asked earlier about how often people are suing. X, I'm curious whether you think that this number sounds, what's the percent of people that with credit card debt that get sued? Past due credit card debt that gets sued by their credit card company?
I don't know. Let's see. I would say gotta be on the like less than 50%.
It's about 15%.
Yeah.
So you think about that, but the average amount, according to one study, was between $2,700 and $12,300. That means these credit card companies are suing a lot of people with not that much debt,
Yeah.
but it means a lot to them, right? Because $6,000 may it's a lot, it's some real money, but it's real hard when you've got other debts on top of it. And I think, Maria, that's where you're at right now, right?
Yes.
How does this all sound to you, X?
I think you should just stop answering the phone. That'll solve the credit card debt. Stop going to the mail. They don't know you checked your mail.
If it works for an ex-boyfriend, it'll work for
Yeah.
creditors, right?
That's the way it works for me. Credit Capital One. I
married-
keep changing my numbers.
How married to marketing are you, and do you have other ways of making money?
Yeah, I have my little side jobs. That's what I'm gonna do in a couple of hours. I have my little promotional gigs that I do on the weekends. I have just been on. Previously, I was working in the liquor sales industry. That's where I was. And
People
now
be
I'm
drinking.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that would be stable, but it turns out that there's a lot of buyouts that happen in the liquor industry, and that's why I have been laid off twice with 2 different companies.
Okay.
Through no fault of my own. It's just like there's just a lot of buyouts that happen. So now I'm really trying to hone in on. I figured that this was a sign that I'm not supposed to be in sales. I'm trying to get into now my real talents, which is social media marketing. So that's where I'm focusing my energy.
I want to take a second, Maria, right? You've been feeling kind of stressed?
Absolutely.
This ain't shit.
Thank you.
This ain't. On a scale of 1 to 10, right? This ain't shit. Right? Like, Bill, jump in here on this ain't shit.
I mean,
it's shit to me. It's I just want to let you know that this is shit to me. Just to let you know. To them, nah. To me, yes. I'm on your side. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I mean by this ain't shit is millions and millions of people are going through this. This is a part
I'm
of
getting more depressed the more you keep saying
It's gonna be motivational, I promise.
Turn this ship around, Josh.
No, I will right away. Like, it
No,
doesn't seem like you have a spending problem at all. All these numbers are modest. The debts are small and modest.
I guess for me, it was just the shock of it all because I posted about it on my social media, and surprisingly, about 30% of my followers responded saying something similar happened to them.
Yeah.
And I think it's that people don't really talk about it. It's very taboo to say, like, wow, I was just sued by a credit card company or something like that. And it's just very hush hush. And so when I posted about it, then people were like, this is very relatable. Like, it happened to me. Calm down. It's going to be okay.
Do you know what your credit score is right now?
Oh God. Again, taboo, right? 424.
It goes that low.
I'm
sorry. I think you're.
How low?
Are you
Can
reading
go?
it upside down? I'm sorry. That's me.
You're winning the credit score limbo right now. And
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of impressive. It's like you'd much rather. Damn. Okay. So, I think that that's actually a good thing. Like, you're gonna think it's not a good thing, but it is a good thing, right? A lot of these debts, like, once it goes to a creditor, they can only hurt you with being on your credit and being on your file. And if you have a 424 credit score, there's just going to be things that are not accessible to you without a cosigner. There's going to be things that you're not going to be able to get. So it's like, you can't kill what's already dead. You can't drown what's already underwater. So I think that there should be a sense of, okay, the good news is you're at a 424, okay? So getting your credit score 10 points better ain't going to help. And it being 30 points worse ain't going to hurt. So there's a sense of freedom that comes from that. So now the analysis is, what is happening in terms of severity? What are the consequences of that? I think there's a question of, is bankruptcy appropriate for me? And if it's not appropriate for me, what do I do? What is my plan? I think that's the conversation that we're having, and it would be the same for thousands of other people, if not hundreds of thousands, that are in a similar situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, X.
What does bankruptcy do? What does it? What does it help? Because is it something where she might have to start her OnlyFans to pay the money back?
I mean, that might be the case already, right? But but in a nutshell, bankruptcy is going to be a federal court comes in and says, stop. No one else can take any collection actions, and we're either going to liquidate your assets in order to get rid of that debt, or we're going to try and create a payment plan to reduce some of those debts. Some debts it works for, kind of famously, a lot of student loan debts are non-dischargeable. You can't get rid of them.
Yeah.
And then other debts are. So a credit card debt is a kind of debt that oftentimes can get erased out of a bankruptcy. But one of the bad things that happens is it'll be on your credit for 10 years. Yeah. So that 424 may not be as low as it goes. But a lot of the times you got to have that clean slate, which is why bankruptcy exists in the first place. In a lot of other countries, even in this day and age, they just chop your hands off. So it literally could be worse.
And you said you got student loan debt.
12,000.
Did you graduate?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, because I got it, but I told them they got to get it back in blood. We got to fight over it. That's the only way I'm paying. If you tell them that, it might work. Ask them like, hey, let's fight, and they can't deny it.
Let's
it's legal
start.
tender.
I think you do actually have to challenge someone. You can pick a champion, like Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Ideally, not a little person.
Yeah.
Although
not
they're mighty. This show supports people of all shapes and sizes.
Nope.
Speaking of bankruptcy, so you mentioned bankruptcy, but I've heard, so obviously I was started looking into it, and there's chapter 11 and there's chapter 7, and I heard, correct me if I'm wrong, that IRS debt is not covered with either or of these.
That's correct. So
and student loans. So
student loans for the most part, IRS debt. If there's a couple others that wouldn't apply here. As you can imagine, the IRS is making the rules, so they're saying, hey, we're not going to let you out of that. Similarly, the student loan lobby was able to say, we're not going to let those be discharged. That being said, getting on a payment plan is one of the best things. And a lot of these, it's called a workout. So you can call these different places and say, hey, I can do a payment plan. This is what I got to do to be able to make it happen. And this may be one of the things where, again, because we're not your lawyer, this would be maybe talking to a bankruptcy lawyer. And as we're taking our notes here to be able to give you some resources afterwards, we'll be able to send you some lawyers who are doing low-cost analysis here, or even some local programs that do free legal services. We'll get you information there so you can talk through that potential. You're really at an amount where it might make sense, just given the circumstance here. So, and one thing I do want to go back to is when we were originally looking up your case number, you are in Justice of the Peace Court, and so far all they've done is issue the citation. So that means they've given it to one of those private process servers, and someone's going to jump out of a bush and try and serve you.
Maybe,
possibly.
but also maybe not for this.
Also
one.
maybe not. And
Get
hey,
a Ring camera and don't answer the door. That's all on.
I was gonna say,
That's
can
true.
I run from them? Is that possible?
That's a very X
How can you run? How
X
fast?
answer there. But let's talk about negotiation.
she's a
I think that this
trackster.
is a great. I think this is a great. I feel like the answer is not to hire attorneys here and fight this. We all agree on that?
I haven't heard anything. You would want to talk to a lawyer about it to see if there's any specific reasons to have a defense to fight. But otherwise, you're going to pay money to fight that you really not going to get you far.
And also remember, I'm sure there's tons of lawyers that would. A lot of lawyers are bad guys or girls, bad girls too.
Bad girls.
And there's plenty of people that'll like take your money to fight a lost cause for you.
I know how you can get rid of half of this in like 3 days.
X's Credit
I'm
Card
sorry,
Counseling
cut you off, Josh.
Services.
What do you got, X? What do you got?
Have you ever been to the hood?
Okay, all right. No, but seriously, I do think what I'm looking at is I feel like if this was my mother, and I wasn't an attorney, and I guess I also was French. I don't know. It's a lot of hypotheticals there, but I say call them and try to negotiate a smaller amount. You know, you can't get water out of a rock. You can't get milk out of a rock or cheese out of a rock. You can't get anything out of a rock. So yeah, I would call them and be like, hey, I noticed that you're trying to find me and you're not going to find me, but I will settle for a smaller amount and we can just get this done. And I need a payment plan for that. Like, here's my situation.
My question leading off of that is that while I'm currently unemployed, I guess.
That's the best time. That's the best time to call them because again, right? One of the things, imagine you're a cop, okay? And this is a negotiating strategy. I call it. I'm sure that we're gonna get demonetized because I said that. Bleep that. But
unalive man.
when you have a gun, and you're like behaving frantically, the cops are like, "Look, he's got a gun. He's got a gun." But if that gun is pointed at your own head, the cops put their guns down and they try to talk to you. They're like, "Hey, man, it's not worth it," right? So you have the ability right now with the 420 credit score, with no job. When you call them, I'll tell you what it's going to do. It's going to take the vinegar of chasing you out. I don't want to chase her when she has a 400 credit score and no job. What am I going to get? I'm not going to get anything. I'm throwing good money after bad as a business. You actually have all the power in your hands to negotiate right now because you're like, hey, I'm trying to do the right thing. What do you want me to do, man? I don't have a job and I have a 400 credit score. What do you think I should do? And they're going to be like, well, we could settle this for 14 cents on the dollar, 25 cents. They're going to make their best offer to you right now.
Okay.
And you could even go, and it's going to seem crazy because right now you're looking at the full list of it. What I recommend is write down each one of these on a separate piece of paper.
Yep. Write
down the information that you need, and then also have your reasons. And when you get on the phone, you just tell them the reasons. This is my credit score. I'm unemployed. I have this much in other debts that I have to take care of.
Yeah.
Now with the one with the lawsuit, you go, oh, I have all these other debts. With the other folks that you have debts with, you go, look, I've already been sued. I can't even afford a lawyer. I've been actually trying to see if I can get free bankruptcy attorney help. Those are all the key words that a credit collector, a debt collector is going to go, oh man, this is not worth the squeeze. Let's do as little as we can. And that sounds simple, but if you take a mechanical approach to calling each one of these, you'd be surprised at how much you can get that down into a reasonable monthly payment. And here's the thing. I know you're going to think to yourself, well, I'm unemployed right now. Well, just tell them we're going to start the first payment August 1st. right? That gives you breathing room. So yeah, you might have to get that in place, but at least now you can extend it out a little bit, maybe find some gig work, find an actual, full-time position, but you're going to have more breathing room, because right now you're stressing out, just like Josh was saying. You're stressing out, and it's making everything else harder. So if you can just get a little room to breathe, I think you're going to see a lot of these things fall into place.
Actually, if you start selling crack, it will get rid of like half of that in like 3 days. My cousin did it. He was in debt. My cousin did it.
Look, this is the real advice. This is why the comedian is here.
Yeah, I mean, people have sold crack for less. Maria, do you understand what we're saying?
I understand what you're saying.
Do you feel like it's helped you clarify where you're at?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you guys had a more logical and reasonable approach rather than going, because I did go to one of these lawyers in the advertising that I received in the mail, and they scared me. They were like, oh, well, the only thing that you should be doing is the bankruptcy. And I was like, okay, well, how much is that going to cost me? And they said $10,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? So
Camera-
you want to put me even more in debt for something you can't even half fix, because the two debts that are the major ones can't even be like eliminated.
Pan in, zoom in, camera. Okay. All right. This is why we do this show, because there are a lot of serious problems in the legal industry. And one of the biggest one that grinds my fucking gears is when you do predatory marketing behavior, like exactly what you described, but it's everywhere. It's people that are trying to literally ambulance chase, and there's no room for it.
Yep.
This is not an advertisement. This show is not an advertisement. This show is a bridge. We're trying to go, hey, you have regular people over there that have never heard a lawyer actually just be real with them, because they're always trying to sell you some bullshit. And mailing people stuff when they're at their lowest, that is just abhorrent behavior, predatory behavior, and I don't think that there's room for it in the country that we want to live in going forward. So I'm glad that you called in, Maria. I'm glad that you feel better. We are still here. So a week, 2 weeks from now, you've been on the show, you want to reach out and ask a question, please feel free. You have my contact info, okay?
If you want to get a plug, let me know. I know some people.
Hopefully I could call back and give some better news that I got a job and I'm starting to pay it off. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to take my call.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you so much.
I might take you up on that. Let me give it a couple of weeks, but I might take you up on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
So I really identified with Maria. I mean, we've all been there. The debts just pile up. You feel like you can't get your head above water, and now getting a lawsuit on top of that, it's really tough. It's scary, especially when you find out from some random advertisements. I mean, you were talking about predatory attorney work. They're looking up the filing, sending her notices on top of giving her ridiculous advice. It's cookie cutter. That's the big problem.
It feels like you found out that your grandma died because a funeral company sent you an ad for a casket. Like that's it's like, what the hell is this? There's no decorum here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think obviously we're going to help get her some of the resources she might be able to have, free legal services.
Yeah.
But I really do love the practical approach, because some people don't realize, with all of the kind of big words and the legal system and the justice system, they think they don't have any power, but oftentimes they do. So I was really glad to hear you give that practical advice, because it doesn't cost her anything, especially while she's fun employed. Just make some calls with a little bit of strategy and help herself out a little bit.
We sometimes get so stressed out about dealing with this big mountain when it's like, hey, I love the way you said it. Write down each one on a poster, right? Write down each one on a piece of paper. It's overwhelming to look at all of it, but you can go, okay, today I'm going to try to negotiate this one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I like, real quick, I like what you said about the unemployment thing. Like, you got most of the power, and you kind of see that, because I ain't got nothing. What you gonna take nothing? And it's gonna probably cost them more money to get that nothing from me than to get what they need. So I like
awesome.
how that goes.
Okay. Lawyers are expensive, but subscribing to this channel is free. We'll be here when you need us. Call in with your legal issues. It's the Barely Legal Show.